Hello, everybody. Right, it's your man BTC Charlie. Really catchy name, isn't it? And I've promised to do an article about NFTs for a long time, but frankly, I've failed because I keep writing and rewriting it and changing it, and the market changes, etc. So I thought I'd just record a video, and you can listen to my dulcet British tones as I talk to you about NFTs. So let's start with the tweet that started it all, I guess. So yeah, I made a 1,000,000% return on one NFT, and that got people quite excited. That was back in December, believe it or not. And I've since made a nearly 10,000,000% return on one, which, yeah, I say nearly, quite begrudgingly, because it's not quite 9.5 million. But yeah, and these are percent, not dollar value returns, so just bear that in mind. Um, yeah, so where do I start, I guess? I mean, I assume that if you've been around, you know what an NFT is, but just to patronise you a little bit, I'll go through it anyway. So an NFT is a non-fungible token. That's what it stands for. Simply put, it's unique, as opposed to a fungible token where each individual token or fraction of a token is equivalent to the next. They're not unique. So Bitcoin 200, as an example, is the same as Bitcoin 500. There's no benefit to you owning one or one over the other. And whereas NFT piece of art number one is not the same as NFT piece of art number two, and confusingly, there can be multiple editions of the same piece of NFT art. So take one of my favourites, which is the classic Shitting Bull, Politics is Bullshit by the one and only Beeple. Um, yeah, a few of you might notice that it's sold for $150,000, but it originally started at $1. Now, there were 100 of these minted at the point it was dropped, which I'll come on to what drops are later, and it got people talking, and Beeple's sales have kind of gone through the roof. He sold one at 6.6 million, and then he sold one recently for 69 million. The first 5,000 days, and you got all these people that are asking, $150,000 for a gift, $600,000, 69 million. Like, is it worth it? And the answer is yes. Someone somewhere has paid that money for it. So it doesn't really matter what you think the price should be. What matters is what the market says the price is. It's the same as any of your shitcoins, right? I think Spank. Oh, excuse me. I think Spank Chain should be $1 a coin, but it's not. The market tells me that it's a piece of shit and it's in the gutter, right? You just have to accept that. And it's the same with this. If you don't understand why a GIF that I can right-click and go save as, and now I own it, well, do you? No, you don't own it. You have a copy of it. But yeah, you can't really argue with the market forces, I guess, is my point. If somebody wants to pay that much for it, that is what, at that point in time, that is worth. And there are a lot of negative people on crypto Twitter talking about NFTs, and it's just a phase, it's just a fad, and all that kind of stuff. But what I can't understand is it's a very profitable one if it is. And why people who are there to make money, and I suppose it's sort of traders and trend followers and all that kind of stuff, aren't risking a small percentage of their portfolio in this space is beyond me. Um, I'll come on to sort of long-term valuations and that kind of stuff, but yeah, it's a really exciting place to be, and there's clearly a lot of money in it. Some of the punks, the old punks, going for millions of dollars as well. It's historic. It's a great time to be involved in the space. So, I guess the real question is, how on earth do you value this stuff? And how do you know that your thing is going to go to 5, 10, 50, 100x what you paid for it? And the answer is you don't. But there are some things that you can, I guess, use as a proxy to help you work out whether what you're buying or onto is potentially going to appreciate in value. And I guess I like to compare it to the Mona Lisa or Mona Lisa and think this through. Like, I look at this, and I went to the Louvre years ago, and I was walking through these beautiful hallways with all these stunning pieces of artwork, admiring it all, and then I walked into this room with thousands of tourists crowded around this, and it's tiny. It's a tiny piece of shit. Honestly, I was so underwhelmed, but it's worth between 125 and 162 million dollars. Why? It's just paint on a canvas. I could buy it all for $250, I hear you say. But could you paint it? Does it have a historically significant backstory? You know, what you've created it? If you did create something even? Is it internationally recognisable, or would it be? Is the artist, i.e. you, world renowned? And could you generate a cash flow off it? Like, would visitors come and see it? So, in normal sort of business valuations, you try and derive value from things like EBITDA multiples or discounted cash flow, and try and get a value that way, but that really doesn't work here, because in most cases, you're not really trying to generate cash from it, you're just trying to keep it, let it appreciate in value, and potentially sell it on, or enjoy it. Like, people genuinely don't seem to see that as an option. It's like, oh, I like it, I want to own it, I want to display it to people. That is an option, and it's one that people, don't really consider. But anyway, you're probably listening to this more for financial returns than to spend money on particular NFTs that you might display in your house one day. So all of this lecturing is great, but what does work? I suppose it's kind of the points above, but in reverse. When you're looking at these bits of art, and when you're looking at these NFTs, like, look at the artist. Are they well known? Do they have good marketing reach? Is it some guy on Twitter with 4 followers that has created the account yesterday? Or is it someone who's been established for 10 years, has got a brand, a business, good marketing, good reach, good support? That can really help set you apart. Art, now how many pieces do they actually have? How often do they release these pieces? The more infrequent, the lower supply. Well, I'm sure you know the laws of supply and demand. A really important question is, do you actually like their art? Can you see anything unique about it compared to others? Now, I minted an art block the other day, and I pretty much instantly sold it, because it looked like a squashed bumblebee or a cheap motel duvet, and I hated it. So I minted it, I took it straight to OpenSea, and I sold it. Do they have a cult-like following? Are they making a statement? So if you look at lots of people's stuff, it's very politically motivated, and he's got some fantastic pieces, but he really is, he's turned into an absolute icon for digital art. And that kind of thing can really attract people and really attract big, big money. How easy is it to replicate? How easy would it be for somebody to redo 5,000 days of digital art? Pretty fucking difficult, right? So it's not like all of these AI generated bits of art, which, it might take a couple of days, maybe weeks to code, or even things like the bunks, punks moving over to Binance Smart Chain and things like that. Like, that's a genuine straight clone. Like, if you think there's kind of barrier to entry to these things, to some of these pieces, like, that'll help you frame, in my head, some of the long-term value proposition. So 5,000 days, you can't replicate that. You cannot replicate that. Or you can, it'll just take you 5,000 days. And obviously being a very skilled digital artist. So that's a really important point. How quick and easy are these things to sort of knock up and create? Price action. So it might confuse you, but a lot of the websites, a lot of the marketplaces have decent price information. So a couple more have sold, the old crypto punks. So what is the kind of average selling price for these pieces, and is it going up? Is it going down? Are the number of sales going up or down? What's kind of going on there? And you can glean some useful information. There was a bit of a Mooncats hype. Now the average price is the average sale, is 0.82. You can use this information, and particularly if you're interested in a single type of NFT, a single collection, it can be really useful. And again, I'll come on to that in a bit more detail. But yeah, price action, and particularly price floors, which is the minimal sale value of a piece or of a collection, can be really helpful in determining kind of how much these things are worth. And then the opposite of that, which is the top selling price. So when Beeple sold a piece for 6.6 million, it kind of blew up the rest of his work and made his other pieces appreciate more. Now, why, I hear you ask? Well, because it showed that people wanted his art, and more importantly, were willing to pay big money for it. And that was before his last piece, which sold for 69 million. I think all of these are trying to answer the same question. Will others want it and be willing to pay for it? And if the answer is yes, then you're likely onto a winner. So that's kind of it in terms of valuing it. And it can be quite hard and quite difficult, and inevitably you kind of have to have an amount at which you're happy. And there have been some NFTs that I've sold, and they've gone on to be sold for 10 times more what I sold it for. But that is just part of the game. And as long as you're taking profits, you should just be happy, really. So ways to play the game. So there are multiple ways to play this, I guess. I mean, the most basic and obvious is trade the NFTs themselves. So you can do that a number of different ways. You can just look for the ones you like, cheap ones, try and sell them on. You can try and be in early on projects or on particular drops. Trade the actual NFTs themselves. It's not something that I do particularly. I'll come on to what I do in a bit. But there's a lot of money to be made in it. And I think there's two levels to it, really. There's people who just sort of casually trade NFTs, and then I think there are what I would call community traders. So one thing one of my friends from Twitter, Tariq70, got me into was curio cards. Now, these are some old 2017 NFTs, and the short story is that they were very cheap. Minted a few sort of pre-OpenSea and sold them OTC in Discord, which was an experience in itself. But that whole experience taught me one thing, that there's a huge opportunity for people who understand the nuances of a particular community. Is this left-facing cat worth more than this right-facing one? It's ever so slightly, apparently, according to the sales price. But if you understand the rarities and you understand the nuances of each particular collection or each particular piece in a collection, then you can really exploit that market and pick things up for cheap and sell them on for a profit. It's like anything, really. But yeah, I think that takes a lot of time, a lot of dedication, and it really requires you to be quite specific. So yeah, I don't do much of that. You can create NFTs. So people have obviously created their NFTs. Some people have done absolute big money grabs. Some people have created some things that are really cool. One of my friends, Crypto Cookie, created pixels, which I thought were awesome. It's a great combination of his Photoshop skills and developer skills rather. And yeah, I'm looking forward to these being revealed in 4 hours. And I'm hoping to get that little fucker and put him on OpenSea for 1,000 ETH. And yeah, treat myself to something nice. But we'll see. So if you can create NFTs and you are a digital artist, it's definitely something worth looking into. But for me personally, again, it doesn't fit me. Curated art then is probably one of the other big areas. So places like Nifty Gateway, and there's a handy image here, which I won't stay on for long, but created by Cooper Trooper. This isn't obviously mine. that separates the NFT space. Oh, thanks. I've just been bought a cup of tea. How very British. You think I'm joking? It's actually a lesbian fruity tea, if I can call it that. And yeah. Anyway, uh, there's this, which is curated art. There's protocols, there's collectibles. It's just a nice way, I guess, of viewing the NFT issuance landscape. But curated art is essentially somebody has looked at it, vouched for the artist, gone through their history, and found their art to be good, worthy, and potentially a good long-term investment. The thing that I like about this is where Beeple was, and I think that digital art as a whole and as a long-term investment is definitely worth it. So this is where I've been putting a fair bit of my NFT allocation into curated art, and there's probably a subdivide in here of established artists and up-and-coming artists. So think Beeple, and then think Undiscovered, and this is equivalent of your majors versus your low caps, in my opinion. Your low caps are either going to 10x or 0x pretty much overnight. Well, not overnight, but they'll either disappear into the ether or they will grow and boom. It's very unlikely that their pieces of art are going to just hover around the price that you bought it for. So very much have the view of 10x or 0x, I think, in that case. And then there's drops. So drops are these, where you effectively get a small window to mint particular pieces of art, and these are often at a huge discount. Some of them are very popular, some of them are not. And this is where the Beeple for $1 came up, and yes, a couple of lucky people got those and may have made millions of percent in return, as you would have seen earlier. So $150,000 from $1. Yes, you're starting to piece the puzzle together, aren't you? Well done. This one, for example, there was, a 3-minute open edition, 9,999 purchases, 79 editions minted, a casual 15 million if all were printed. Yeah, some of them are just money grabs. I've never heard of this guy, but curated, okay. So you have to be really careful even in the curated space. But yeah, there's definitely some nice quick flips on drops, especially if you effectively win the lottery of getting pieces at $1. And there's not just drops here, there's drops in things like NBA Top Shots, where they drop packs, you open the packs, you get rares. There's art blocks that were curated, built, and minted that you can then either sell on instantly like I did because you get a Squash Bumblebee, or you get a nice rare out of it and flip for 10, 20, 30, 40, 100x, something like that. So drops I really like because it's typically quick, fast, and you kind of know what you've got instantly. And yeah, that's my personal favourite, really. They require time, and it is just a game of pure luck. There's nothing more than that. Now, another way to play the market is altcoins and projects that are related to NFTs and marketplaces in particular. So think of all these, basically. My personal picks were these. Some of them have different things that you can do with them. So, for example, Xmon, you could have staked it and got your little digital NFT collectibles. CHZ, you can do various things with around sports teams, and GHST, you can mint a gotcha, I think, or you could do a point in time. So yeah, it's always worth looking into the actual fundamentals of the projects and what you can do with them. because there's often more than just price appreciation as an output, and sometimes the NFTs themselves that these projects generate can be very, very valuable. So worth doing. And I just treat these like any other altcoins. As they're going up, I kind of take 10% profits here, there, and everywhere, just because the moves on them are often so volatile, and most of them are up multiple X's, and it's just the way to slowly secure profits. And that's how I trade generally. But I am still in all of these positions. So what other ways are there? I mean, well, I suppose just on NFTs and altcoins, you've got this list. CoinGecko NFT. Have a look at some of these projects, because there are some excellent projects in there, and I'm sure I've missed some. So yeah, I mean, how do I play it? Yeah, it's really the drops, which I like for the quick flips. It's the curated art. I'm mostly in established artists that I like and that were here sort of early on, back in December, January. I haven't put much in the newer artists, but I've bought one or two speculative pieces, but I'm very much prepared for them to go to zero. And then it's just the alts, the normal trading appreciation of them. That's my home ground, really, generally. One of the ones that I'm excited about is Drops, which is, if it loads, a very unique project that's coming up, and it's blending DeFi with NFTs, and it's kind of unlocking the value of those NFTs. So you can take your NFTs and gain access to NFT liquidity, making it fungible essentially, and you can use your NFTs to obtain permissionless and trustless loans, which is a really unique value proposition. And these guys, aren't new to the space. They did Node Runners, and if you haven't seen it, that was way back when, before the real NFT hype came. So it's an experienced team. I suppose that's one of the things that I'm getting a little bit frustrated with in the market, is that every project and their dog seems to have some sort of NFT tagline in it these days, and it's getting quite hard to differentiate between art with either long-term value or projects with a differentiating value proposition. And these guys have definitely got the experience and the differentiating factors. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one and adding that to this wonderful list. I guess I should touch on the downsides of NFTs, really. And it's not fair to just sit here and say, oh, you can make all this money, it's great, it's wonderful. But there are downsides to it, and one of them is shilling, I guess. I can shill my projects to you, but the way I do drops, I can't really shill that to you. I can't say I'm going for this drop, because there's a bad example, but generally there's 1,000 slots maybe, and if I shill that to my 11,000 followers, I've just got 11,000 more people to compete against. So kind of what's the point? I don't want to do that. I don't want to increase my own competition. But if I told you about my Spank Chain bags, which I'll get when Cryptopia finally give them back to me, I can dump them all on you, which is great. Not that I would do that, but don't buy Spank Chain. Liquidity is one of the other downsides. By that I mean, actually, when this Ferris wheel of infinite money printer goes brr stops, you could quite easily be left with something that is unsellable, that you have paid a huge amount of money for. Now, do I think that's going to be the case with Beeple? No, I do not. I think he is iconic in so many ways, and that's a sound investment. Do I think that the unsolicited dick pics? Yes, I think they are going to go to zero. And I think a lot of these little collectibles are going to go to zero whenever we end up moving away from a big fat bull market. But when that is, who knows? I guess the point is, just be careful, because you don't want to go all in on a pair of digital clown trousers and be left with them for a long period of time, only to effectively write it off because you can't actually sell it. The other downside, I guess, is the cost of participation in this market's actually quite high if you've got a small portfolio. So gas fees, I've heard a lot of people complaining about that, because they are high, and they can be really high, and they can be really excessive, particularly for things like bundles, and when you're doing multiple transactions, it quickly adds up. I mean, in my view, it's a cost of doing business, but if this was the only way you were trading and trying to make money, then it would be quite difficult. So what's the future of NFTs? I mean, NFTs are booming, right? And this whole space, the entire crypto space is becoming more mainstream and less of a space for drug dealers. And in my view, it's just set to grow and grow and grow. And I certainly believe that for digital art. And I think the digital art in itself, is far from over, in terms of like a hype cycle or whatever people want to call it. Yeah, it's far from over. And there's some really exciting use cases for NFTs in the pipeline, which is why I'm investing in NFT-based projects and NFTs themselves. But short term, I do think the market is being flooded with NFTs by people just looking for a quick win and a money grab. So I'm consistently taking profits along the way, and I would encourage people to do the same. For what it's worth, I only play with around 10% of my portfolio NFTs or NFT projects. So when I'm posting on Twitter, I've made these absurd percentage gains. You all think I've made $1 billion? No, I have not. Is the simple answer. And yeah, all in all, I'd encourage you to just take a look at the space if you haven't already, but don't overinvest, or expect instant returns, or expect to get it right first time. A lot of it's luck, and frankly, if I'd have known how big People really was going to be 3 months ago when I came across his work and started tweeting about him, I'd have bought every single fucking piece I could afford, but obviously I didn't. If you've got any questions about it, about NFTs or whatever, I'm in my Discord, I've got my DMs open, I'm fairly good at responding, but the one thing I'm not going to do is tell you what bits of art I'm buying or which drops I'm going for. You can do that yourself, because you're my competition now. So yeah, if you enjoyed this, let me know by just supporting it, giving it a little like, a retweet, something like that. And if you didn't like it or you hated it, well, screw you. No, I'm joking. I would appreciate any constructive criticism or feedback, because this is my first video, and maybe next time I won't get interrupted with a cup of tea. But hey, that's very British, right? So yeah, good luck, and cheers everyone.